Hello everyone, this is Fide Master Niranjan Navalgund and I am here to do the fifth episode of YGOA, that is Your Game Our Analysis. So I have picked some games as usual and we will be going through those games. Let me look at the chat and see what's happening. Hi chat, hi Utsav. Hi Manal and hi Codeful Man and Rohit Kumar. Yes, we have started and I have selected some games today and the link to the form is also there in the description. So Utsav is right. So that is the reason we have the link for you, so you can watch. Like you can submit your games so that we can analyze it in the next episode. So we gave a lot of time for the users because we are doing this YGOA after a long time now. So initially we decided to do it every Friday, but the last Friday we had a big event, and so it was, I think, also the birthday of Vishanand, I think. Okay, so let's keep the chat clean and let's learn chess. So that's the motto here in this stream. Let's go to the first game. The first game that I have. Before I go, I just want to know if everything is alright in the stream. Please give me a thumbs up if the audio is fine, the video is fine, and then I will go straight into the games. Hi Shreyas, thank you for being here. Our moderator is here. So let me remind you all that we pick the games randomly, so there is no bias attached to any of the games. So whatever comes is just there just there on the screen. So I don't really just because I like a username I don't pick it. Yeah, all good. Okay, so that's great. So I think I'll start. Okay, so the first game that I have is a game between Siddharth Kamble and Datino, and this was sent to us by Siddharth Kamble. He played a very nice opening. You see, knight is developed, bishop is developed, but after castles, his opponent went bishop g4. Now, it makes sense to play a move like d4 or to develop your knight to c3. But what Siddharth did, Siddharth got his bishop back to e2, which is not really meeting the demands of the position. So this was the start of, let's say, the start of his going down, because after bishop e2, I don't think you really play for an advantage with a move like bishop e2. You have to be prioritizing development over retreating. So this pin is not really that dangerous. The knight is still on b8. So if you are worried about knight c6, knight d4, you can also play a move like c3 here, but definitely not bishop e2. But okay, bishop e2. Now your opponent has made unnecessary pawn move. You have taken advantage of it, which I appreciate. But after knight c6, your opponent is actually playing against the threat of d4. Now in this position, if you play d4, then you see how many attackers are there. There is 1 and there is 2. And how many defenders are there? There are 1 and 2. But then when you play d4, one of your defenders gets chopped off and then you lose a pawn. So this you should have considered. This is what I call the blunder check. Just when you are about to make the move, it's very important that you ask yourself, can my opponent take advantage of my move? This is a question that you must keep asking. So the advantage of asking such questions is you will become curious, and once you become more curious about the game, your ability to make mistakes will come down. Like, you will stop making the obvious mistakes and you will keep improving. So remember to ask yourself some questions about the blunder check. Can my opponent take advantage of my move before you make the move? The question sounds very simple, but it is these simple questions that have the power to change how your game goes. Okay, then after bishop f3, your opponent took the pawn, and now after he has taken the pawn, I think it's important that you develop your bishop By playing knight e2, number one, you are moving the same piece again and again. Number two, you are allowing your opponent to double your pawns, which is not a good sign. Your king is on g1. Hi Hemant, how are you doing? Hello Ashlesh Kaushal. What about kd4? Knight d4. Knight d4 when Utsav? I think you probably meant here d4, knight d4. Knight d4 here is a mistake because knight takes d4 and also supports the bishop. So this is not the best move. But even here, if you play a move like knight d4, I don't think it's necessary. You can play knight d4, but it's not necessary. Playing knight c3 is more necessary. Don't move the same piece again and again. That is the beautiful part about this show, that you can not only learn from your own mistakes, but you can also learn from the mistakes of others. And personally, for me, learning is fun, and I don't mind if it's from my own games or from the games of other players. So that is why I thought, okay, this will be useful for a general public, because when we are with celebrities or players, when we are analyzing their game, of course you can learn. But in this show, you get a chance to send us your games, and we get to analyze them for you. Coming back, I think knight e2 was a mistake, but after that, your opponent should have just kept quiet, played bishop e7 and castled, but instead he went for a very desperate, I would say, this knight x e4 is just bad, with the king on e8, to open your own king like this is not bad, not healthy. But after rook e1, bishop e7, you should take advantage of the fact that this knight is hanging by playing knight d4 and then going to f5 and then bringing your queen to g4. These are the ideas you should be looking for. But what Siddharth did was he played knight c3, allowing his opponent to exchange. So this is what your opponent wants. Your opponent wants you to exchange pieces so that this problem gets discarded. But you are helping your opponent by playing knight c3. This is another powerful question you must ask during the game. Will the exchanges benefit me or my opponent? Am I helping my opponent with the move I am making? This is very important. But this knight c3, no, not at all. Hi Ajinkya Bakshi, music, hi. Ha Ashlesh, okay. Alright, let's come back to the game. In this position also, I think you could have played rook b1 and attacked the pawn on b7, but he went rook e4. And then, now when you are down in material, please don't exchange pieces, because you need pieces to create more threats. So you should play something like king h1, I think, but by playing queen g4, you are helping your opponent. Your opponent did not go for queen g4, he went for queen d2, but yeah, still fine. You are able to create some threats, and the position is passive. I can't say much because this position is already in black's favor. But the good part about this game is you managed to, I think, win it. So I'm just skipping through because that's an important moment I want to show. Here, after rook d6, your opponent, after queen g5, I'm going to give this to the chat. What do you think white should do instead of taking the pawn on d6? So this is a position I loved when I looked at this position when I was checking. Since opponent has played queen g5, what do you think white should do? Yeah, Ashlesh Kaushal is saying something very, important. It's just that some people don't follow it. So there should be some discipline, I think, to follow what Ashlesh is saying. Double die, Courtful Man, Utsav, you all are right. Now, for me, this moment, Siddharth missed queen c8 or queen e8. That is not the takeaway here. The takeaway is, how do you spot this and how do you not make the same mistake like Siddharth? I think here you must remember D, letter D. D is equal to drawback. In this position, as soon as your opponent makes a move, like he plays from one position to other, You must immediately ask, you must switch off that thought process and switch on the drawback option. Like you have to immediately go into the zone where you only calculate drawbacks, because that will help you in figuring out what it is that is missing in the position. Because this queen on d8 was guarding the last rank. After it comes to g5, there is nobody to guard the back rank. So your mind will automatically push you towards moves like queen 8 or queen 8. Instead, what Siddharth did, he just took pawn on d6. So then it went on and on. Ultimately, he managed to win. So here he managed to win with mating net, but his opponent also helped him because opponent made a lot of mistakes. But what are some of the takeaways for Siddharth? Let's look at the tips I have for Siddharth. Okay. So here are the tips. Develop pieces quickly, avoid moving the same piece. I am talking about knight e2, and do a blunder check before making your move. I am talking about the move d4 you made in the game, because you just helped your opponent by playing d4. And then the next thing I have is, as soon as your opponent makes a move, I think focus on the threat, what's attacked right now, and don't exchange material when you're down. Like you played queen g4 when you know you are a pawn down. And then I would definitely suggest what Ashlesh Kaushal has just mentioned, that you have to solve a lot of puzzles, because I feel that you need to be at that basic level to understand whether you can create a threat now or not, whether opponent is creating a threat or not. So this is built up by doing a lot of positions, because by doing a lot of positions you improve your ability to recognize the patterns which could come up in your games. So that's I think the takeaway from your games. And remember, the letter D is equal to drawback. That is what I would give you. So please understand and see what is the drawback of your opponent, and see if you can make use of the drawbacks of your opponent's last move. With that, I will go to the second game. I know I took a bit longer for game 1, but yeah, let's go to the second game. Thank you, double die. Yes, Codeful Man. I'm glad you are liking it. This is a game by Naveen. Naveen has sent us his games before also, I remember. But when I did the number generator, his game came up. So I had no reason to discard the game. So we just took that game anyway. And in this game, he is black. He's playing against Lukaul, whose rating is 1336. And he plays a very nice opening. No mistakes at all. And then in this position, after rook e1, b4, c4, by playing b4, he is like softening the point, and after c4 you see the d4 square is completely in black's favor, which I like. And then after bishop g5, I don't know what happens. Suddenly Naveen goes in a different mode. He takes bishop takes f3. Now I don't think this is necessary. There is no reason to capture. You can see that black has plans to play h6, f5 on the king side. He can play rook a7, rook f8 and a4 on the queen side. So he is the king on both the sides. And if you want to study the patterns in which you can play on both sides, I would suggest that you study the games of Alekhine, because he was the master of playing on both sides. So in this position, you played a dynamic decision, that is bishop into f3 is a dynamic one. The position doesn't demand bishop into f3, so I think this is an exchange you should avoid. Instead play h6, play h6, king h7, f5, even play knight d4 or play rook a7, rook f8 and a4. But bishop f3 was a mistake. And then after knight f3, your opponent took the knight. Okay, I understand that. This was all fine. Now I don't think you need to exchange the knight on d4. You can instead play a4 and focus on the queen side, because you see you can actually get the a line. I'll give you a sample line. Just play rook a7, then rook f8. I'm just showing you how things could go. And then a4. If it doesn't take, then you can even bring your queen. So something like rook a6, then rook, let's say rook fa8, rook fa7. I'm just showing you a plan. With this kind of an effort here, I don't think he will be able to retain a file. So for example, something like this, if he doesn't take, we are going to take, and if he takes, this is a weakness. So play safely, there is no need to take a dynamic decision here. But after knight d4 again, I think you went for an unnecessary exchange. And now in this position, your opponent was able to play f4 break because you exchanged the pieces, and then of course the position is still in your favor, but I don't think f5 is necessary again. You can play on the queen side, play where you are strong and not where your opponent is having chances. Because this bishop is active now, this rook can come to f line. I would say that white will actually play on the king side, and you are playing on the side where your opponent wants to play. Definitely there will be a clash, and I think he will have more chances. So let's go to the next one. Indian Sniper, hi. Yeah, Mayank, I think he just got lucky. Okay, coming back to the game. So don't play on the side where your opponent is strong. And then after this, he won the pawn and then won this game. This game is winning because he has too many pawns up, though it's opposite color bishop. But yeah, so from your games, I feel that you need some strategical element in your game. And what are the tips I have for you? Let's go to game number 2 tips. Don't exchange pieces without any reason. Focus on positioning your pieces to good squares. Play on the side where you are strong or have chances. Don't open lines to help your opponent. And I have a book recommendation for you. I think this can help you. If possible, buy this book. It's Chess Strategy for Club Players by Herman Gruten. I think if you pick up some concepts from there, it will help you. There's another book recommendation I have. It's called Trade Secrets by Andrew Soltis. I think that can also help you. So these are the tips I have for Naveen. With that, let me go to the next game. But before that, let me see what's happening in the chat. Yeah, double die, you're right. I was talking about Alec Heinz gun. You're right. Okay, let's go to the next game. This is Nikhil Gupta versus GGSH. This game was sent to us by Nikhil Gupta, who played black in this game. Okay, let me go. This is the Nimzo Indian defense and Zamish variation of A3. This is considered as one of the most aggressive ways of playing against the Nimzo Indian. Here there are many lines possible. You can play c5, you can play knight h5, you can play b6, you can play d5. Vast range of possibilities, but he played b6, which is fine. And after castles, his opponent played e4. He can't take the pawn obviously because the queen hangs. So then d6 to prevent e5. And opponent rushed here. Opponent should not have played e5. This is not the way to play this line. He should develop his pieces first. But he went e5, and then after d5, d5, queen d1, rook d1, knight d4, the bishop is attacked. Now we know that the bishop is attacked and the pawn is attacked, but his opponent did not notice it and he played rook d3. He only defended the pawn on c3, forgetting that the bishop is hanging. So this also happens in our life, isn't it? We worry about little things, forgetting the big picture, and in worrying about these little things, we may forget that something bigger is at stake. So when a situation like this arises, you have to be calm and look at the big picture. Look at all the 64 squares and see what is hanging. Now Nikhil Gupta got lucky. His opponent did not notice the bishop. He just took the bishop. And then I have a moment here after knight g5. His opponent is offering an exchange of piece while he is materially down. He is down in material, but I think black has no reason not to take it. Just simply take this and just even take this pawn, or even push this pawn, or put your knight to d7. But here Nikhil Gupta played rook e8, supporting the pawn on e6. But what happens is, you see number of attackers, 1, 2 and 3 attackers. And how many defenders? Just 1 and 2. That means the pawn will be taken. So white can simply take knight takes e4, fe4, bishop e4. You are losing a pawn just for nothing. So when you are in a winning position, you should be extremely alert not to miss a chance like this. Not give up material just like that. So knight g5, he should have simply taken this. No problems at all. But he did not. And he went for something else. He went for rook e8. And on the next turn he took it, which I appreciate. So this is something you must learn, all the other players here, that you can, if sometimes life may give you an opportunity to correct your mistake. Do it then and there, like knight g5, like how Nikhil Gupta did. And then I think then after that it was all fine. He was able to win it. Then in this position, after rook a5, the move I would definitely play is rook b2. Put your rook on the 7th rank. That is the heaven for the rook. Don't go after pawns. Always look at it this way. Chess is more about activity. Even if you have, let's say, 9 queens on the board, and if your opponent is checkmating you with a single knight, all those 9 queens are of no use. So you must prioritize activity over material. So that is, I think, the takeaway from this game. Let me go to the tips. I have prioritize activity over material. As I said, study more games on Nimzo Indian. I would suggest that you watch this DVD of Jakub Agard, or however you pronounce it. His DVD on Nimzo Indian is highly recommended if you want to study more of Nimzo Indian. Then I think for you, this is a particular book I am suggesting. It's called Multiple Choice Chess 1 and 2, and it's published by Everyman Chess. Why I am suggesting this book is, of course you can keep solving positions, but in this book you will get a lot of options. And I felt that you had trouble in this game when you had a lot of options. So that is a book series in which you get MCQ kind of questions like we just released today. We posted on our social media about a position and we gave you 4 options to decide what you want to play. That book is particularly aimed at exercises like this, so I hope you will pick it up and that will be of great use to you. With that, let's go to the next game. Hi Ravish, Indian Sniper. You're welcome Nikhil Gupta, good to see you here. Indian Sniper, many simple blunders. Sniper, I would like to tell you that the blunder that might look simple to your eyes may not be simple in the eyes of other people. Similarly, a move which is brilliant in somebody's eyes may not be brilliant to them. It depends on the person. Okay. And let's go to next game. Vikas Nishad. He has sent us this game. And this is his game against Rajdeep Sarkar, who is a very strong international master from Kolkata. This is a Caro-Kann opening, and in this position he went for bishop d3. Usually knight f3 is played, but yeah, this is fine. All this is fine, and after c5, this is the first critical moment for you, Vikas. I think you could have played something better than what you did in the game. You played queen b5 check and went for a line which is not the best, I would say. Because after queen b5 check, your opponent has queen d7, he wants to exchange queens. Because you see, you have pushed your pawn to h5. A pawn like this is likely to become weak in the long term. So, you are actually helping your opponent by playing queen b5 check. Instead, I would suggest that you look at these two moves. One is knight e4. The idea being that if your opponent takes cd4, you can play knight f6, queen f6 and then queen b5, because there is no queen d7 here. The other move I would suggest is to play 000. This was played by Jubaba Bahadur in a Title Tuesday event. You can get this game in the base. Just search Jubaba versus Li Kuang Lim or Linchesvesky versus Li Kuang Lim, and in this position, this is how you can also play. You see how fluid the white's play is. It's just very comfortable, and I think you can go for this line. So these are the two moves I suggest, knight e4 or 000, not queen b5. This is pertaining to opening theory, but going ahead, I will tell you something more. After bishop into c5, in this position, you must take advantage of the resources you have. This is already almost an end game, and the king is supposed to be used in an end game. You must not tuck it away. So I think keeping the king in the center could benefit you, because this is an end game and you could have used your chance to activate your rook with rook h4. Because by playing castling, you are going away from the game, I think. Your majority is here, that is c2, b2, a2. What I mean by majority is you have 3 pawns on the queen side, your opponent has 2 pawns. So use that majority. Bring your king this side but not that side. I understand that you cannot move your king because f2 is hanging. So why not decide on other things? Go rook h4, rook c4, get your rook. I think castling was a mistake. The mistake is strategic in nature also, but I would say that, think about this, how to use your pieces in a creative way. And then I think the next moment which comes is, I think the game ended in a draw. Yeah, that's what I observed. So what are the key takeaways for you? Let me check. So coming to your game, Vikas, I think these are the tips I have. Study the basic ideas of the openings you play, including the piece placements. If you're playing Caro-Kann Knight c3, you must know why we play h4, h5. You must know how white should deal with the end games. And I already mentioned Queen b5. In this game in particular, Queen b5 was not right. And then I have a recommendation for you. There is a book called Creative Chess by a very strong grandmaster and very nice author called, his name is Amartya Avni. So I think you must study that, and it will help you to understand how you could be more creative with your chess pieces and how you could use them. You are already having quite a basic knowledge, quite good basic knowledge about how to play the basic. Okay, so these are the tips I have for Vikas. I hope you can also take a screenshot of this if it helps you. Okay, with that I'm going to the next game now. The next game is by Noam Master 88, and he sent us this game. He was playing white and he chose a very different kind of line. He played bishop g5 and then took the knight on f6, which is fine. And then in this position, after knight d7, rook e5, I have a question for the chat. If your opponent takes d takes e5, how are you going to play? What is the next move you are going to play? Simple question. Your opponent has, you have just played rook e1 and your opponent takes d takes e5. What is the response? Knight e5, double die. Are you sure? If you play knight e5, and what if your opponent then plays knight takes e5? What will you do then? Indian sniper, are you sure? If you take knight takes e5, the problem is your opponent will take knight takes e5. You cannot take d takes e5 as the bishop hangs. And if you take rook takes e5, then you lose a pawn. That is the reason you should not take knight takes e5. And here, Noam Master 88 played the correct move. He took d takes e5, which is correct. And then after rook c8, he played bishop e4 and took. That is also fine. And now, after queen a4 check, king f8, I am going to give this chance to the chat again. What would you like to play after king f8? Yeah, Ganesh Singh, that's a point. Yeah, double die, you are right. Rook a d1 was correct. Take as much tempo as you can. You are getting an extra move, why not do it? But here, our player Noam Master, he just took the pawn, just missing out on this extra tempo. Of course, the position is still winning for white, but I would say, why not make use of the good options that you have? Then in this position, after that, I don't really see anything wrong with the way white played. So he just won the game comfortably after that. So full marks for it. After that, I don't have much to add. And this was, I think, game number 5, right? Yeah, so let's go and check what are the tips I have for this player, Noam Master. Don't be tempted to grab a pawn. As soon as you see it, I'm talking about queen takes a7. And because you played bishop g5, I think you can also consider learning main lines. And then you can do this. This is a general advice, that study game collection of your favorite players. And then you just guess the move. while you play through those moves. Let's say you open a chess set, you have a book ready, and then you make the move. Don't look at the move played, and then try to guess. And then once you are like ready with the move, write it down, compare, and see whether your move is matching with the master's move. And then ask yourself what is the difference and why they are playing so and so. And sometimes, this is a good way to boost your confidence. If you are able to get a lot of correct moves, if you are able to match moves with the masters, it also gives you this inner confidence to play well. So I would suggest this to all of you. Just pick a favorite player and pick their best game collections, and you can just guess the move with them. And on chess.com we always have this series called Play Like Kasparov or Play Like Alekhine. And for that you can go to chess.com/lessons to understand more about the different lessons that we have. Let's come back and go to the next game. The next game is for Avigyan, I think. So he sent us this game, and he played black. I think his name is Goswami. So yeah, he sent us this game, and you see his opponent played knight a3, knights on the rim, usually dim, but yeah, some players still play this. Alexander Ward from Australia calls this the double rook opening, double rook, ROO. And yeah, here Avigyan has played bishop a3, which is fine, very much, because it doubles the pawns. Please tell the time control of the game you are analyzing. भाई मेरा एक गेम हुआ है राकेश के साथ, वो भी एनालाइज कर दीजिए ज़रूर. हिंदी चेस चैनल हम करेंगे, आपको फॉर्म भरना होगा. हम एक जैसे लॉटरी उठाते हैं ऐसे हम उठाते हैं, और अगर आपका उसमें गेम आया तो हम ज़रूर यहाँ पे दिखाएंगे. तो हिंदी चेस चैनल को भी आप लोग वॉच कर सकते हो, देख सकते हो, वो हिंदी में कंटेंट डालते रहते हैं. नमस्ते, हमारे चैनल में आने के लिए शुक्रिया और स्वागत है. Coming back to the game, rook b1. Yeah, in this position your opponent has played a4. What is the idea of a4? Very clear. Bishop wants to come to a3 and he wants to stop you from preventing. He wants to stop you from castling, so he's preventing that. So you must get this clue and play castles yourself before he could play bishop a3. But you did not. Avigyan, this was not the best move. So you played knight d7, allowing your opponent to create this problem for you. Now you cannot castle unless you play something like c5. But after knight b6, c3, I think you are just making moves and making things difficult for yourself. Why not develop this bishop with tempo? Just get this bishop out. But you did not. You went e4. And then this knight c4. Okay, now I understand why you want to play knight c4. But this is not the best way to play. But okay, this is still fine. This is still fine. Castling is fine. This is fine. And now a thing about choice. I have learned this the hard way. Bondita Bhagwati, good to see that you are here. Avigyan. Now the point I want to say, this is a very subtle point, and I don't know if all of you will be able to understand, but I will try to convey it in as simple words as possible. When you're playing chess, it's a game of decisions, and it's a game of a lot of decisions. But when you're making decisions, you must take that decision first. I mean, nirdhar, or in Hindi you can say. So you have to decide that move first, in which you have no choice. So you must decide on that move of which you are very sure of. For example, you know where this rook goes. This goes to e8. So you decide on those moves in which you have no choice. So rook e8 has to come. But this rook on a8, it could come to c8 or d8 later. So if you are deciding on where this rook should belong now, you may end up losing the chance to put that rook on a better square. So decide in a wise way, I would say. So that is what I noticed. You did not play a rook b8 here, which is not necessary at all. So I noticed that this rook b8 created a lot of trouble for you later. So then after d3, ed3, ed3, you went knight e5. Then came bishop f4. So after d3 also you could have simply played knight d6, preventing a lot of problems. But after ed3, d3, still knight d6. But knight d5, The drawback of this move is you are putting that knight in danger. The knight is hanging. It's unprotected. So you have to quickly think about all these things when you are playing. Should I put my knight in danger? Why keep it unprotected? So remember this acronym KAPP. Keep all pieces protected. So when you are playing chess, remember this, not to hang your pieces unnecessarily. Then after bishop f4, he could have simply taken, but this was some kind of a style. He wants to attack this rook also. But now, when your opponent has taken the rook, take the bishop. You are getting the bishop. So when you are getting the bishop, at least take that. Be happy with what you have. Your opponent is not threatening to take this pawn because he is hanging here. So you can simply take this. So this move I can understand is a result of a shock that you received after your opponent took the rook. So you have to be very calm in chess to play best moves. Then after that I think you were heavily down in material. Not much I think after that. Then your opponent just won the game. So what are the tips I have for Abhigyan? Castle when you can, sometimes not castling could cost you a lot. I would say that castle when you can. When your opponent is playing a4, he wants to go bishop a3 and you should not allow it. Then a word about choice. Consider developing that piece first which knows where it wants to go. So this is about decision. You have to decide which piece should go where. And if you have a lot of options, don't decide on that piece yet. And then when your opponent attacks, there are three different series of defense. Counter attack, exchange, intermediate moves, retreats, coming back. I'll talk about this now. What I mean by this. So in your game, here, when your opponent played d3, e3, your knight is attacked. Correct? Everybody knows this. I agree. But when I'm talking about defense, you see what the tip is saying. I have said that there are different ways in how you can defend. First is counter attack, second is exchange, third is intermediate moves, fourth is retreats or moving back. So you chose moving back, which is like say the fourth option in my category, in my list of things of what defense. First you consider the counter attack. So in this position, a counter attack could be something like bishop f5. You develop and you say, you are daring. You are saying, okay, if you want to take the knight, I will take the rook. These are the moves you must consider first. If such moves don't exist, then go to exchanges. Can you exchange something? Let's say if your bishop is attacking your knight, can you exchange that bishop off? Then come to intermediate moves and then come to retreats. Vapas aana ya bhag jana should be your last resort. You should not look at that immediately. It's very human to immediately come with your knight behind. But remember this. First counter attack king option should be considered and only then coming back and all of that should be considered. So coming back to your tip, the last is consider a chess game like a story. Be involved with your pieces so you won't hang them. So why I mention this is if you talk to your pieces, you will feel involved and you will take care of them. You won't treat them as just some plastic coins. You will treat them with care and you will know not to hang the pieces. So I am sure that next time you will not hang pieces like this in your games. So take this into account and use them in your games. With that, let's go to the next game. Hi, what's up? The thing is, this one of you mentioned I must talk about the time control. The time control of this game is not mentioned when they sent me this game. So it's just live chess game and I cannot really see what is the time control here. So that's the reason I cannot really say if they are playing a blitz game or a long game. But I would appreciate that you send us the long games because the potential to learn more is there in the long games. Okay, with that, let's go to the next game. The next game is of Rishabh Das. So Rishabh Das has sent us this game and he was black. Opponent is way higher rated. Yeah. I think that was from an open challenge. Yeah, could be. This is a game of Binesteller versus Rishabh Das, and in this position, after knight d4, he played knight takes d4, which is a dubious move. Why is it a dubious move? The queen on d1 is sitting. doing nothing at the moment except protecting the knight. But you are inviting the queen to come to a very nice square on d4. This should be avoided. There are different moves possible here. Bishop c5 is a possibility, knight f6 is a possibility, g6 is also a possibility, bishop b4 check is a possibility, which has been played by several grandmasters. But don't play knight d4 because you are allowing your opponent to come to a stronger square and you have no control over the center anymore after you give away your knight. So bishop c5, queen f6, knight f6, these are the options you must consider. But you went knight d4 and then c5, a very risky move. Why? You are completely surrendering the control of d5 square. If the pawn were on c7, it could keep an eye on the d5 square, and this is a central square. Please keep this in mind. By playing c5, you are just gifting your opponent a very important square in the center. Again, pawn moves are committal moves. Don't take them for granted because they cannot come back. It's like time. Once gone, cannot come back. So yeah, this is not tenet. So you cannot really use tenet in chess in this position. So after queen c4, knight f6, bishop d3, again you are in danger. Your opponent has developed bishop and queen, and you must play bishop e7 or d6, probably d6 and bishop e7. But by playing d5, you are opening the position while you are still underdeveloped. This is like, let's assume that you are part of an army and then there is this opposition. So there's a battle going on, and you are firing when your team is not prepared. When you are firing, it's obvious that your opponent will fire too. And when your opponent fires, if you are not ready, then you will have to pay for the mistake, that you fired at the wrong time. So it's very important that you be prepared whenever you want to open a position. A pawn break is like opening fire. So this is a strategic concept. Please keep this in mind. Don't open the position when you are not ready. And why I'm saying you're not ready is because you see, after castle, your king is in great danger. It's in the center of the board in an open position. You will get firings from everywhere, all over. And then, okay, I would say that position is already bad. It's difficult to suggest a move. Maybe bishop e6 was better, but by playing bishop d6, you are simply giving away the pawn for free. After this, there is not much to say. But you drew this game. That is a great achievement. And there is a trap coming for the chat, so I will pause here. In this position, what do you think white should play? Hi Salither Wing. Some of you have sent me the pigeon, so I could not get the game link. Some of you have just sent me pigeon, so I cannot really see time control in some cases. But in some cases, yes, I was able to see. For example, I think this game was played. I think I know what time control this game is. Give me a moment. So here's a question for the chat. What will you play as white? No, I have no clue about the time control here. Yeah, it's 5 minutes. Now I got it. So this is a game of 5 minutes. So in this game it's mentioned. So let's see how many of you get it right. Utsav is saying rook into e6. Utsav, if I am asking you a question, there should be some reason, isn't it? And you have probably fallen into my trap. Now he is retracting the message. I have read it. Bishop g5. Harshit is saying bd5. You probably mean bishop g5. Yeah, it's possible to play. Yeah, Utsav has found out why rook into e6 is a mistake. So, in the game, if you are tempted to win a pawn like this, beware. Bishop g5 is fine. Indian sniper, your move is also fine. Nishil Jain, yes, bishop g5 is fine. Harshit Gupta, yes, this move is fine. Bishop g5 is fine. But I would probably play something like g3 to just stop any kind of danger. And white is doing fine, but he went rook e6 and then gave this bishop h2 check and then queen e6. And after this, I have another important moment. What will you play as black in this position, chat? After king takes h3. Yes, Indian sniper, you were right there. Bishop h2 was coming, yeah. So what would you do in this position? Yes, Indian sniper, you were right. You and Utsav both got it right. Rook d6 and rook h6, double die. Bishop on c1 is looking at you. Yeah, rook d1. That is the move. The idea is rook h1 mate. And if white goes king h2, what will you do? After rook d1, if white goes king h2, rook e8, Gur Sidak Preet Singh, 4632. Sahi jawab, that's right. Pin bishop to rook, yeah. Bandita, yes, that's right. So in this position, rook d1 was coming, but he went h5. So after rook d1, if something like this happens, you play rook e8 and put the rook here and win the bishop. But this did not happen. He played h5, and then even now, don't go for the pawn when you can get the bishop and also threaten a mate. So this was a move which he missed, and then later, after many moves, you know, the story ended in a draw, I think. Yeah, the game ended in a draw. So yeah, those were the main points from this game for Rishabh Das. I don't know if he's around, but yeah, those were the points for your Rishabh Das. These are the tips for you. Don't exchange unnecessarily. That was knight takes d4. Don't open the position when you are underdeveloped. I gave you the analogy of a battle between two teams and how you should not open fire when you are not ready. And prioritize king safety and keep an eye on opponents' unprotected pieces. Very important. I suggest that you take your game or your friend's game and try to spot the mistakes. So this is a good exercise I suggest to my students, that you can just pick up any game. You can just pick up any game and try to see if you can spot the mistakes in that game. Just see if you are able to find out if the move is mistake or not without using analysis tool, without using engine. And then you can compare that with your coach or then check with the engine. So what happens is, after you have played that game, you give yourself a second chance to see where you went wrong. And it is much more useful to evaluate this on your own and then compare. Also, you can use the chess.com analysis tool, but I would suggest that before you also do that, you can also check once for a moment on your own and then go to analysis tool and compare whether you were right about your mistakes or the mistakes of the players that happened in the game. So that is a tip I would give you. With that, let's go to the next game. The next game is by Aman Singh, and he was white in this game. Aman Singh with a lot of 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. So after e4 d5, he played f3. This is a bad move because you are touching this sensitive pawn of chess. This f2 pawn is very sensitive. The square on f2 is also very sensitive. You should not play f3 here. And your opponent played e5. This is fine. This bishop, getting your bishop developed to d3 makes this bishop on c1 very unhappy. So you must keep an eye on such things. Are you making somebody unhappy with the way you are playing? I mean, some of your pieces. So bishop d3, knight e2, it's all very congested. Your opponent could have played bishop c5 here to prevent your castling. He did not. And then in this position, Again, after bishop e6 not needed, your opponent could have simply taken on d5, and after bishop e6 this bishop is hanging and you did not take it. So the bishop was hanging for free bishop. You are getting a gift, but you are not taking it. And then you see after knight d4 your opponent is not taking it, he is playing queen h6, giving you a chance. Then you are like heavily up by material, and then by playing d4 you are attacking your opponent's queen, which he failed to see. Then you were able to win. I think after that not much. So you picked up everything, and good you did not stalemate him. Yeah, this was nice. So what are the tips I have for you, Aman Singh? I would say that you study the games of Paul Morphy, Stenitz, Alekhine, read more chess literature, because I can see from your game that you have just come into the game, and don't make unnecessary pawn moves. And for you, I would definitely suggest that you watch episode 3 and 4 of YGOA. This is the 5th episode, but by watching episode 3 and 4, you will understand the number of mistakes you can avoid, because I have covered this in detail, especially for players at your level in episode 3 and 4. And then watch the games of strong players, follow a basic training plan. Now I am going to send the link of the basic training plan in the chat. If you are seeing this later, go to the chat replay and check. This is the training plan I suggest. Use this simple training plan. So I wrote this a few months back, and I think that it could help you. So just follow this basic plan, and I think you will be able to elevate your game. How to score high in 5-minute puzzle rush? Doing more simple tactics or difficult tactics? I would suggest that don't focus on the score, but focus on getting the position right. Eventually your timing will improve. I know it's not the answer you are expecting, but this is how I see it. If you focus on time, you will end up doing a lot of exercise under 5 minutes. But if you focus on improving your game, keeping up with the time will be a byproduct of what you do. So initially, first start with absorbing as many patterns as you can, and then come to timing. So I would say that eventually you will catch up. Hi Tanay, it's going great, as you can see. How are you doing? So that's what I would suggest. Don't aim for getting it in a particular time frame, but focus more on improving your game. I can score 50 in survival, but only 30 in 5 minutes. But this is more of a game kind of thing. Of course, if you get more in under 5 minutes, it's good for your overall feeling. But make sure that you time your exercise. I do this. What I do is I take positions from games, but at my level, if I know what kind of theme it is, it's not good. So I take a position and just keep analyzing it without really knowing whether there is a tactic in the game or not. But what I used to do earlier is I used to solve those puzzles in which there was a pattern given. That is how I strengthened my pattern recognition. For example, I studied this wonderful book called 1001 Winning Chess Combinations by Fred Greenfield, and the topics are categorized. So when you are studying pin, you are only studying pin, and you can do that on chess.com too. You go to chess.com/puzzles and you can do customized training. You can only solve positions based on pin. So yeah, I think that is how you can do it. But if you want an elaborate answer, then I would say that just keep practicing consistently, and let's say you do half an hour of exercise, only puzzles every day. By the end of 14 days, you will see that you have already improved your speed. I think that is the way to improve. That's my opinion. Some may agree, some may disagree. Use the chess.com Explorer for master games. Yeah, Utsav is right. You can use that. Chess.com/Explorer. That's where you are supposed to go for the games. Salitherween. The thing is, I don't know if your game is picked or not. It all depends on whether that number comes. So I'm not sure. If you have applied, your games are there, definitely. So I am just analyzing the games which came in our random pick. With that, let's go to the next game. That is the ninth game. The ninth game is of DTMT versus Gajanan, and Gajanan Joshi I think sent us this game. So Gajanan, you played the opening 3 moves where G6 is fine, but I would suggest that you play E6 or C5, but it's okay. G6 is fine, Knight D7 is fine. After B4, don't play A6. I don't think it is necessary to play A6. Instead you can play A5, and if your opponent plays B5, you can play C5. This is how you're supposed to handle your pawns. But you played A6 and then Bishop G7 is fine. Now playing A5, B5, your opponent is not really is not in a mood to play B5. And then if your opponent plays B5, I think you should at least follow it up with C5. But I actually don't like playing on the queen side right now. I would rather focus more on castling and getting E5 break. This is the break I am playing for in this game. But not A5. E5 is just out of tone. Then again C6. Don't play on the side where you are weak. Don't play on the side where your opponent is strong. So I think you have your knight beautifully placed here, and you can actually play knight E4 and get in E5 break. That is what I would be hoping for. But yeah, in this position, you gave a lot of play to your opponent on the queen side. Your opponent is now dominating. And then this move B6, this just completely destroys your position, and then you are already in a losing position after B6, because this knight which was protecting B6 is forced to move, thereby you lose the second pawn, and this is gone. So after this it's gone, the game is completely gone. What are the tips I have for you? Pawn moves are vital, they are committal decisions, prioritize development of pieces, and I would suggest this book called Pawn Power in Chess. It's written by Hans Mock, and focus on connecting the rooks and completing the development. That's what I mean by playing castle, rook e8 and e5, and don't play on the queen side. And pick a favorite player, study their game collection. So that's a general advice for you based on what I feel about your game. That you just pick up a player and then do guess the move. I think that would help. Now with that, let's go to game number 10. Game number 10 was sent to us by Chetan, and he's playing against Guido Balloni, and he's black. So Chetan played quite a nice opening. Everything is fine. This is okay. Bishop c3, I would rather not play that, but okay, this is fine. Now after bishop g5, h6. In this position, after h6, bishop h4. His opponent should have played, but I don't know, for some reason his opponent just played bishop h6. But yeah, now he can play rook b8, and then after b3 plays c5, and then let's say if his opponent plays knight e1, only then consider a move like g5. Don't play g5 until this knight is here, because this could invite knight into g5, h5, bishop g5, and then f4 will be a lot of danger to you. So just keep making some moves on the queen side before you take any decision on g5. But you can actually insert a move like h6 here, because in this position your bishop is absent. You don't have a bishop. So h6 could be considered. In this position, even knight takes e4 could be considered. I usually don't suggest grabbing a pawns like this, but in this situation it is safe. You could have played knight takes e4, and after queen d5, knight f6, you could have played this position. I think this is fine. But you went with castles, and then your opponent, just gave the bishop. But still, the game is not over yet. You are winning, and you gave, in this position, after knight is 5 f3, you could have simply taken the knight, free knight. There was no need for this extra style bishop h3. I don't think this is necessary, but okay. You got knight f4, which is 5. You can actually play bishop g2 also here. King g2, knight f4 check, fork. This was possible, but yeah, this is fine. Now you are threatening queen g2, which is fine. But after g3 you are losing all advantage. So in this position it was important to play bishop f5. and then play maybe queen g5, because then g3 is met by knight s3 and the queen hangs. So after queen g5, queen f2 is also not possible because of the fork. So this was a very nice way of playing, but you did not. You played queen g5 and then. Alright, coming to this position, you are a rook up, completely rook up. So you see, opponent has one rook and you have two rooks. Now when you are ahead in material, there are some strategies you can follow. Number one, prevent opponent's counterplay. How do you prevent? By looking at it from your opponent's perspective. I have seen this, some players they stand up, and when it is your opponent's turn, they go behind the opponent and check. I wouldn't suggest that, because it's sometimes uncomfortable for some opponents, but just mentally visualize as if you are seeing the position from opponent's perspective, and then try to see what you can do about it, and that way you understand what your opponent is threatening, and then once you know what is threatening, it becomes easy to list out your options and how you can play against that idea. That's the first part. The second part is to exchange pieces. Because you are ahead in material, it makes sense to exchange pieces. This is the second part. Now the third part is to think of pawn promotion. When you are ahead in material, threatening to promote could add more pressure in the game. So I think you can also consider ideas where you create a passer or put a pawn to the last rank and promote. So these are the three main ideas you can consider when you are in winning positions. But what happened in the game? Your opponent played king f2. What is he threatening? He wants to bring his rook to g1. So accordingly, you should play king h7, so that when he plays rook g1, you are ready to fork his rook and king. But you did not. In this position, after that you played f6, which allowed your opponent's rook to enter the 7th rank. And it became so dangerous suddenly that if you play king e6, you are getting checkmated in 1. Then you played king e8, but after rook c7, it is not so easy anymore. The position is still very much winning, but you have just complicated matters for yourself. So then after this, I saw that your opponent was having chance, you were having chance, and then it just kept going on like that. And then at one stage, I want to ask you a very important question. Why did you give the knight for free? In this position, you just gave rook into d4. I don't think it's necessary. Just take this pawn, free pawn. Why did you give the rook? Just giving this rook into d4 was not needed. And then I think that made things difficult. After that, you went on to capture all the pawns. But remember, when you are ahead in material, you must exchange pieces, not pawns. Because I told you, number 3 was to promote your pawns. And then if you end up losing all pawns, your winning chances come down to a great extent. This position is still winning. Just play a5 and knight takes b3. First rook takes h2, then play a5 and then knight b3. Just winning. But you did not. You played knight b3, and then this position is no longer so easy. And if white plays well, he is likely to draw the game. But the surprising or the shocking factor of this game is that white won this game. So what was the reason? I think there was a lot of pressure you took during the game. Basically, it was the way you were playing moves, the zone in which you were considering moves. So I know that you were winning heavily, and now you are no longer winning so heavily. You must adjust or adapt to this new situation, that this is no longer so easy. This should actually help you become more alert rather than being depressed about what has happened. So then I think at one moment this pawn became too much for you, and just became difficult to stop this pawn after knight e7. Now it's a7. Still knight c6 is a possibility, but still you can defend against this. Now it's no longer so easy, because then it's rook versus knight. Now in rook versus knight, when you are defending, you must keep your king and knight together, and you should not go to the corner. Only two things you must remember. Avoid going to the corner, keep king and knight together. But after some mistakes, I realized that you went into a dangerous spin. Keep king and knight together, not far, because a move like this could ruin your game. So with the help of spin, your opponent managed to win. So Chetan, I think you've got a lot of instructive material in this game because I mentioned a lot of things. Try to note them down. You see, I would suggest a book for you. Read Simple Chess by Michael Steele and then Prevent Opponent's Counterplay. First principle in technique. I also mentioned the three things. Number one, see the position from your opponent's perspective and diffuse the threat. Number two, see if you can exchange pieces. And number three, see if you can promote pawns because that can put more pressure in the game. And then I felt that you were not having a clear goal in mind. Now you know what to do in a winning position. So use these tips to your advantage next time. And thinking from your opponent's perspective will help you diffuse threats in advance. So it's like you go into the future of your opponent, understand what he is doing, come back and then make necessary changes so that you diffuse your opponent's threat. So guys, so I did cover 10 games now. Manish Raghav, Prathamesh, yeah, white one Indian sniper. Shrest is right, you will have to wait for your chance. The link to send your games is here for episode 6. So that's episode 6, you can just send your games there. And yeah. And now I'm going to answer any questions if you have. Is there any book on Audible I can listen to? Let me check. It's I think too advanced, Utsav, but I would certainly recommend Jonathan. Naveen, your game is there, please check. I have already covered it. The Moves That Matter by Jonathan Rowson. Okay, he has not only talked about chess, but some other aspects of his life. But that's a good book, I think. And then the other book on chess, I cannot really recommend the one that I haven't listened to. So that's the only one from the list I have seen. And if you want to listen to another audio book about chess, I think it's How Life Imitates Chess by Gary Kasparov. But you know, when I first listened to it, it went over my head, so I wouldn't really suggest it for basic players. But actually, that's a good idea. Maybe I could record an audiobook for beginners. Maybe I will try something of that sort. Because I have not come across an audio book. Yeah, Naveen, you can just go. I think the next session will happen on Friday again. Next week, probably same time, 3:30 p.m. on Friday. Me or Rakesh will do the next episode again. So Shrest is correct. Shrest, even if you have any questions, I am very happy to answer them. So I'll just take a couple of questions. Is there a way to gain rating in this time? It's a lot of people ask how to increase rating, but improve your game. Rating will come by its own, I think. But if you are focused only on rating, the chances of facing a disappointment are high because this rating fluctuates. But your game, if you are improving day by day, learning every day, it's consistent. But if you want to improve, I think rating. If you're talking about classical tournaments, wait for them to resume. And if you're talking about chess.com, then I would say play a fixed number of games. Don't go all in. Decide that you want to play 5 games today and play only 5. I think that's a stable way to also revisit your games, because I do that. I play a fixed number of games when I'm in that zone, and then I revisit those games and see where I could have improved or changed. That is what I do. So if there are no questions, I think I will wind up now. It was great for me to cover 10 games and with tips. I think with this I have at least managed to touch 10 different lives. That sometimes all you need is just one tip, and then that one tip can help you in 100 games. So use them well. Do you know any chess ebook reader? I think Kindle. You can read, if you go to read.amazon.com, you can read your books on Kindle on a browser. Okay. All right, guys. With that, I think I will next see you on Tuesday for the Title Tuesday event. Utsav, I can do that. I am going to stream on my channel on 23rd and 24th. So my channel is twitch.tv chessophile. So I'm going to stream on 23rd December and 24th December. So on those days, I think I can take challenges. On 23rd, I'm doing it in the evening at 8 p.m. and on 24th, I'm doing it in the afternoon. So how to spot tactics and confirm that it is actually working? I think for that you will have to do more of what you're doing. Like, you see a position, and if you want to make sure that the tactic is working, just make sure that you do a blunder check. See it from your opponent's perspective. That means, let's say the same tactic your opponent is doing at you, you will not sit quiet and just take that for granted. You will sit and calculate whether this is really working or not. So take that approach and see if that works for you. Okay. And if you are asking about a book or anything in particular, then there is an entire book written by Doretsky on how to recognize opponent's resources. So you can, but that's a very high level book, I would say. But generally, just start looking at your games from your opponent's perspective. Thereby, you will get a lot of details about whether your move is good or not, whether your tactics are working or not. In 3+2, I would say 3+2, I am not sure, sorry. I am talking about general chess. In 3+2, a lot could happen. I think a lot of players invest their time on openings if they want to get better in 3+2. But since this is a general stream where players of all levels are there, I would refrain from suggesting something specific here. Okay, with that, how to improve blindfold? Does it help in normal matches? Definitely helps in normal matches. Go to chess.com/vision. I think you can train your visualization there, and try to study some short games without a chess board. Okay, and I think that should help. Alright guys, thank you Foundation Chess Master. If you are here, please subscribe to our channel if you are here for the first time. And glad to know that you are here, Foundation Chess Master. With that, I will say bye bye. It's been more than 90 minutes. With that, I'll say, I think more than 75 minutes at least. Okay. Yeah, blindfold variant should be great for your improvement. But I would say start with vision training. Any good book with miniature games? I think Irving Chernev's book Logical Chess Move by Move, and then the other one is 1000 Short Games of Chess by Irving Chernev again. This is a good book, Prathamesh. Yeah, all credit to chess.com, and the variants are cool. And now it's time for me to take leave. Bye friends, see you.